All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Once again, welcome to the quarterly Explore Spot update for August. My name is Spencer Kilpack with the Spot implementation team. Joining me today is Nicole Kirby from the customer success team, and we also have Wash Respis and Torin Brown from the product side. And I will let them
everybody.
say hello.
Hello, everyone.
All right, we have some exciting things to show you today. Before we get there, if you do have any questions, we do have a Q&A session for you at the very end of this initial presentation. There is also a Q&A section in the webinar console. If you can ask any questions there as they come to you, we'll go ahead and address those at during the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to Torin Brown from the product team, and he'll get us started today. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for taking time out of your day to attend this session. We enjoy being able to show off some of the new functionality that's coming within the platform. And we'll start just going through some of the agenda items of what we're going to be covering today. We've got some new features to show in Spot and Counter Connect, as well as Delivery Connect Mobile, which has been known as RouteTrack. And there have been a lot of changes with Twilio, and so we do want to take some time to talk about some implementations, some new features and functionality that we've put into the platform to assist with some of those changes and some of the filtering that we're seeing with carriers. And then we'll just spend a couple minutes reviewing some of the new features that we had during the last quarterly session. Just as a reminder, for those of you who either A, were not able to attend, or B, just want to a quick refresher. So Wash, why don't we go ahead and jump into the first slide. First item is we have had a lot of requests for this. This is a new report that we've created around some functionality having to do with our customers sending us messages to stop texting. Today, we do provide some reporting within the client account screen that will show that a cell number is disabled, meaning the customer has gone in and said stop, which prevents us from sending them any further messages. But there's been no way to actually see who those customers are and aggregate that in a central report. And so we've created this new report called SMS Stopped Customers. You can see here on the screen where to add it. And Wash, why don't you tell us a little bit more about exactly how it works?
Yep, sure. So you can see just a screenshot of a report there. I blacked out the phone numbers and the customer name, but you can see the date that those were received. On the top left slide, you'll see where you can find that report in the reports gallery. I recommend that you add this report to sort of your daily reports. And that's something that we're not going to go through right now in this presentation, but it's something that we certainly can cover in an expert hour, where you can create reports that can be daily sent to your email, those things that you're constantly wanting to see. You can see some of the ones that I have. I have a daily snapshot sent, and then also customer sign-up attempts. So those are certainly reports that would be nice that I start my day off and seeing if there are customers that I need to contact that day to see either why they opted out of receiving text messages, because most of our route customers these days are on demand. If they opt out of receiving a route reminder, they may stay on my route, but we may never, ever go by and see them because they're not going to receive a route reminder in the future. So the next thing I'm going to show you here, this is a new batch operation that is specifically made for orders that are picked up and not paid. One of the things that we see out in the field, unfortunately, are credit cards that are declined on route orders. And those orders, once they leave the building and the driver has said that they are no longer, that they've delivered those orders and they never got paid, those orders will show up in your picked up, not paid alert. And so we're going to show you a couple things there. If you look at the screenshot on the left, that's Torin's alert screen, and you can see that he's got his picked up, not paid orders alert right there visible, and that's one of the ones that we check daily to make sure that that we're getting paid for route orders. If you see there, what the screenshot on the right is just where I clicked on the picked up, not paid orders, and then I did a batch operation, and one of the new batch operations is to pay orders. So if you have a lot of picked up, not paid orders, you can quickly, with just a couple of clicks, go out and attempt to get paid for all of those orders that are not paid for already. I want to show you, here's just another way. Currently your picked up, not paid orders may not be on your front screen of the alerts. I'm showing a screenshot here in your company settings, in the operation settings. If you click on your alerts, you can, on the right-hand side of the screen, you see the up arrow. You can move any alert up higher in the rank here. And if I move this, in this instance, I move the picked up, not paid orders all alert to the very top of the list. So I want to make sure that's the alert we're watching every day so that we can make sure we're getting paid.
And I think, going back to this report, this is, or this functionality, this has been, for those of us who are moving into a lot of credit card on file, and particularly for deliveries that are being made where sometimes the credit card's been declined, this is now a great way to get visibility on it and very easily be able to process those payments, particularly if we're sending out notices to those customers to update their credit cards upon a decline. This will pick up the new credit card number and attempt to process it against that number. So just a great way to track some of that, those transactions that are going through and between the cracks. Okay. So another thing we've added is on storage conveyors. For those of you that are using storage conveyors for route extraction when you go to deliver your routes, we find that there are some who want to go through and be able to not have to necessarily pull the orders off in stop or optimized order, but rather just have the conveyor unload the orders as quickly as possible, given the time that's required to go through and extract in stop order on an automated conveyor. And so we've now added functionality that will allow us to, or allow you to go ahead and now request that any order that is on a route be extracted as quickly as possible, and it just greatly speeds up the process. Of course, if you do want to put it into some order, there will be some organization that needs to occur, but not relying upon the conveyor to do that, particularly if you're doing some other organization process. This is a much faster, much more efficient way to do it. Wash? Oh no, I've got this one. Credit card link timeout. This is something else that we've added. I mentioned earlier that when a credit card is declined, you can set up a notification to go out to the customer that would include a link to take the customer out to a website to update their credit card. It's a great way to capture information quickly and easily. For security reasons, we had thought originally that link would stay valid for 10 minutes and allow the consumer to log in, update their credit card, without having to put in username, password, etc. We discovered that 10 minutes just wasn't long enough, and that traditionally within the industry, that the 24 hours is live for 24 hours and allow customers to update their information quickly and easily. And here's a screenshot of what I'm talking about. We see here that the request has come in, and you'll notice that there is a token that you can put in the message to take the customer directly to the Customer Connect website to enter that information in. And if you put that token at the very top of the message, it puts the link, you see it here in the middle of the screen where it says tap to load preview. That makes it very easy for the customer to be able to click on it and update their credit card information. So Wash, let's talk a little bit about some of the changes in Counter Connect. What can we expect?
Yep. So first, as we continue to build out the Connect platform for working on the counter, one of the things that you now will be able to do is you can detail restoration and hotel orders. So I've got a couple of screens here that will show us how to do that. So those of you that do restoration orders, you can now detail those orders inside of Connect, no longer needing the Spot platform for that. At the same time, if you are a hotel, if you're a customer that uses hotels, you can detail hotel customers' orders inside of Connect. And so just continuing the round out of the functionality on the counter platform. One of the other things that we ran into was just a little bit of an improvement of the pickup screen in the counter. We now have the ability to do a select all. This was particularly important when you were trying to prepay orders. And that was really the one that came sort of most notable from users was there needed to be an easy way to select all to pick up orders. As most of you know, we highly recommend that if you're going to pay orders for pickup, that you scan those orders out. That way that scan sort of ensures you have the right number of orders instead of doing a selection. You would scan orders out, but in a prepay scenario, there really is no reason for you to scan an order. You just should be able to prepay those orders instead of pick up those orders. The next thing we've continued to round out is the delivery functionality inside of Connect. Now that we have an integrated delivery functionality inside Connect, we've continued to sort of round out some of that platform. First thing I'm going to talk about is the mobile device. Hopefully there'll be helpful updates to Delivery Connect Mobile, and expect this release to be in the very near future. And we may be able to sneak a couple more things in there, but definitely this is one of the things I want you to be aware of. In the past, we were showing the month and the year of the last use of the customer. Just found out that wasn't so useful. Now we're going to show the month and the date of the last usage of that customer. So just a little bit better feedback to the user. It's not real helpful when you're talking about being in July and you're saying they've used in July, but when in July. So this gives us a little bit better visibility there. The next one is something that we're extremely excited about. This is the ability to add what we call a new opportunity visit. So these would be customers that have never been on your manifest in the past, and you would be able to select. You can see the filters over here. You could filter on new customers or on our at-risk customers, which we talked about on the last webinar. But in this case, this is new customers, and you could automatically send the visit all for all new customers to make an initial visit and that this is primarily used for delivering maybe a welcome kit, welcome to the route. You see now that we're making it a little bit easier for customers to be added to the route by counter staff. We'll show you that a little bit later. We talked about it on our previous webinar, but now you can sort of do an introduction to the driver themselves.
Well, and I want to talk about this for a second. I think one of the great features of this new visit opportunity section within the delivery functionality is that most of our activity out on the routes really don't have the opportunity for a personal touch point with our customers. And that is the objective of these new opportunity visits, is to give you and your drivers the opportunity to connect with those customers that are going through some transition on the route. Either A, they're new, they're brand new, and you want to explain how the process works. You want to be able to go out and identify that they are potentially an at-risk customer, that they're not using you with some frequency. There is a reason that there needs to be a personal connection with that customer. And so we're now taking that route and adding that functionality to the manifest, so that we now have some visibility as to A, making sure that our driver is going out to visit them, and B, have some ability to capture some information while we're out there so that we know what the experience was like between the driver and the customer. So this is a great new feature that we're super excited about. So continue, Bob. Sorry about that. My turn. I mentioned early on that one of the big changes that has been coming is Twilio, and all of us have been receiving emails from Twilio regarding changes that are being implemented by the carriers. And we have a standing call with Twilio representatives to talk about what's happening. It is very much the Wild West. Twilio is working with third parties that are working with the carriers themselves to figure out the requirements as more and more businesses are starting to use SMS messaging, texting, to communicate with customers. The carriers are beginning to see a lot more traffic across their networks, and frankly are looking for ways to cover the bandwidth changes that are occurring because of all that traffic. And so some of the things you may have seen is that there is now the carriers, all of the carriers, so Sprint, Verizon, all the carriers are implementing filtering. And so what that means is they have automated systems that are going through each and every message that is being sent through the system. They're flagging them if they are coming from a business. And if the message is not consistent with a campaign and it is a business-oriented message, the carriers are simply flagging the telephone number and filtering the traffic from that number, which means it doesn't hit the customer. And unfortunately, we don't know about it. Twilio doesn't know about it. And so what they are requiring is that every person who has every business that has a standard telephone number, that's what they call a 10DLC, that's where you would see your area code and telephone number prefixed or on your sending number, are requiring that you register for the campaign. There's a one-time and there is a $15 registration for each type of campaign. And in addition to that, there's an ongoing monthly fee associated with it. And the process is complex. We expect it's going to change further. And so at Spot, what we've done is worked with Twilio to come up with a way in which we can help our customers work around this issue by using, upon Twilio's recommendation, a toll-free number. And so we've implemented the system here at Spot where Spot has created a master account with Twilio, and it's open and available to our customers. You can register to be part of it. You do not need to register your campaign. There is a verification process that we initiate of the number and the company, but in the meantime, filtering is disabled. So until the verification process is complete, they will let any message go through. And of course, once the verification process is in fact done, there is no filtering of the number. So it's a way to immediately be able to avoid this filtering requirements through the use of a toll-free number. And as I suggested, this is something that Twilio has encouraged Spot and their users to do. Now, because it is a Spot master account, the billing will actually be processed by Spot. The overall expense is no different than what you're paying today, and frankly avoids all of these campaign registration costs that are shown here. And in addition to that, your number will also change because it will become a toll-free number. So this is something that you can opt into, and there's a slide at the end. Simply just email us at info@spotpos.com, and I'll come back to that. But another benefit to this all is that instead of having to go out to Twilio to find out what's happening with your messaging, we have now provided some of those reports directly within the support portal of Connect, which you all have access to through the help menu in Spot today. So if you go to the help menu in Spot, you'll see that there is a support portal link in there that will take you to this screen. And for those that onboard onto the Spot Master account, you will see in the left-hand screen there is an icon for Twilio. And when you click on it, you basically have three logs that you can view. The first is just a log of activity. So if we can, let's flip over to the log screen for a moment, Wash. So the log screen basically is going to show you what you traditionally see in Twilio itself. You'll see the messages that are both going out as well as the inbound messages coming back from your customers, and you'll be able to validate that either the message has been delivered or received, or if there is some error, like for instance, it's not a cell phone number or there's some other issue, it will highlight and tell you what that message is. Over on the right-hand panel, if we were to click on one of those, we'd get more detail on each one of those messages. You want to go ahead and take the next screen, Wash?
Sure. Yeah, one of the things that I did want to point out, Torrin said during the verification process, there is a verification. Once we initially establish your new toll-free number, then you will we'll get an initial verification. From there, you can send messages sort of instantly, but there is a cap on those messages. So for some of our larger users, if you're using more than 10,000 messages a month, you may see some. Sorry about that. We may want to wait a little bit till we get full verification. The full verification is taking about 3 weeks, and some of the larger customers were already starting the process for verifying those toll-free numbers. So the next screen is our usage screen. So you will be able to see how much you're using for the SMS, MMS, and I'm not sure if you're used to going into your Twilio usage screen or not. The way they bill, they usually charge your credit card in advance, or they do charge your credit card in advance and then just hit it throughout the month as you exceed the amount you put on your card. So people may not be looking at their current Twilio usage, but we knew once we put this under the master account looks like we need to be, we wanted you to have visibility on the product usage. In addition, we also created a screen exclusively for error logs. What we're really concerned about, everyone may want to see, messages going back and forth all day. You might really love that. But the thing that you're most concerned about is if a message is undelivered and why it was undelivered. So now with this new screen, you will get that exact information. You can see a live shot of my real data. I blocked out the customer's number, but you can see I clicked on a few of those and realized, we're sending messages to route customers that are no longer customers. And so go in there and fix that. And, we had the wrong number for the customer. So we definitely are trying to, this has helped me already in my operation. So I think you're going to see some benefits from doing that. If you are still on your own Twilio number, you will not see any of this information inside of Connect. So this is exclusively for those that have signed up for the master account, Twilio master account. And here's the email. Here's the email address for those of you that are interested in signing up. Most everyone should have received an email already, but as we know with most emails, it takes 2 or 3 times of receiving the same thing before you finally take action on it. So there's the email again to sign up.
Well, and let me add that when the reason we need the email is we will send you a reply with a link in it, and that link attaches to a form that has some information that we have to submit to Twilio that they use as part of that verification process. Things like they want to know what your website is, what your business address is. It's pretty straightforward and simple, but we do want to be sure that we get that correct so that we don't interrupt the verification process. So that's the purpose for the email. Just go ahead and just send a simple email. Just please sign me up for Twilio. We'll reply with a link to the form and complete the form. And at that point, the process is fully automated, and we can, within a period of a couple days, particularly if you're filtering. One of the questions is, are you currently being filtered? If you are, please check that box, because we do prioritize those. Because we all know how important text messaging is to our businesses, and we don't want to interrupt that flow. All right, so that's enough on SMS. Let's talk a little bit about some of the new features that we presented at the last quarterly presentation. We'll go back and revisit some of these. Sometimes it's good to just be reminded. And so, Nicole, do you want to tell us a little bit about some of those?
Sure. They let me do the fun stuff. So first thing I want to talk about is the deliver. There's a couple of keywords that you can use in Spot with a response to a text message that will trigger some automation. One that we presented last time was the keyword deliver. So if somebody texts your Twilio number, the word deliver, if they have a ready order, it will trigger some automated responses. We'll show you how some of those work. So move over here to our next slide. One of the ways that you can use this before we actually see what it does is if you are looking to build a route business or convert counter customers from counter to delivery, this is an opportunity to have a conversation with those customers. They can tell you that they are potentially interested in delivery service. So we see here an order ready message was edited to include reply deliver for more information. And if somebody replies the word deliver, you can customize this message, but by default it says we've received your delivery request and we'll contact you shortly. This then presents as a on my way kind of request, a visit request. You'll see that on the screen next to this here. We've got a visit request pending. You'd have the opportunity then to review that request. And if we jump into Connect, you can easily look up that customer and see if they are in one of your service areas. So from this next screen here, these two go hand in hand, this deliver message along with this feature that we showed last time of being able to see delivery customers in Connect. So if we look up a customer, select them, assuming they have an address, and then click the delivery button, you will very easily see on the right the list of available service plans that that customer is eligible for based on your zones and their address. To add somebody to the route, it's just a 3-step process. So you have options for basic and advanced, but first is which route are they going to be on? Next is what days, and the basic will automatically default them to your default days and your default method, whether it's static or on demand. And then the last is just adding any special instructions. So you have the opportunity to have that conversation with your customer, explain to them how your delivery service works, what days of the week you'll be in their area, and then quickly add them to the route from this screen. All right.
Yeah, thanks, Nicole. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, great functionality, makes it much easier to use and certainly very intuitive for the staff to be able to add this in. Okay, so we have a secret agenda item. This is something we talked about recently. We had a customer that contacted us, and they had some questions about across their various stores. How can we tell how many customers used us once and never came back? And so the team got together and explored that option, and we realized that we could leverage one of the reports that we had within the system, and it was an aha moment for us within the product team, where we thought to ourselves, you know, this would actually be something good to start adding to our quarterly product sessions on how we use the product and what we learn about the dry cleaning industry as we utilize the product. And so what we did here was we decided not only were we going to perform this for this particular customer, but also we thought it would be interesting to understand how that compares to the industry as a whole. And we went in and looked at this data for a handful of our customers in different geographic markets at different price points with different adoption of some of the features within our platform, particularly some of the OTS functionality, asking the question for all of these customers, what percentage of new customers use us only once? And the hypothesis was we were going to see things all over the place, some much better than others. And so the way we did it was we went to the customer initial activity report. So you'll see here up on the screen, this is a sample of mine, the first page of mine. And we ran this for the period, for each of these companies, we ran a list of the initial activity for any customer that signed up between January 1st, 2022 and December 31st, 2022, figuring that they haven't used this in the last 8 months. They're probably not an active customer. And this report, you'll notice, shows for up to 16 visits, for up to 16 visits, how many times and when the customer came in and what they spent. And so in some cases, you'll see that some of these, several of these, only came in one time. That sort of middle column is filled in once, and there's a lot of blank space to the right. Whereas we have some other customers that came in with some regular consistency and some not so much. But what was fascinating about this was that when we overlaid the data from all these different customers that we tested, there was remarkable consistency. So Wash, why don't you tell us a little bit about what we found?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we're not going to do a Q&A here and have you submit this, but I wonder what each of you think in your operation. How many times do you see a customer come in only one time?
Well, and maybe a good question, create a little bit of interaction here.
Yeah.
Why don't you, for those that have the display up, why don't you type what you think, what percentage of your new customers use you one time only?
We'll give it a minute. So type that into the chat. Let's see what everybody thinks.
Come on, somebody. Drew, come on. I'm going to call you up.
Just in case you didn't hear the question, what percentage
here we
of
go.
customers do you think are one-time only?
Here we go.
One time only.
Oh, now we're getting some numbers. These are great.
Oh, you're all going to be fascinated. All right, we've got some wide varying numbers there, but most of them are off the mark.
Yeah. So Wash, why don't you show us what we came up with?
So we looked at a number of companies, and big, small, all over the market. You can see there's very little variance, anywhere from the best of 51% to the not as good 60%. And I actually said it, the not as good 60%. But yeah, you can see it's hard. You could not have, well, you could have drawn one line, and it's just amazing to see how consistent customer visits are across the industry. And the real challenge, the real takeaway from here is, how do I move that needle a few percentage points so that I can get customers back in more and more? And so that's the real challenge. But this gives you an idea of a starting point. So you can assess your own self and your own operation against what we consider sort of the industry average. You know, it's somewhere in between, I'd say it's probably looking at 55, 56% of customers only come and see you one time in a year. So it's actually drawing. We'll at the end, we'll ask you to recommend some of the metrics you might want to see. But first, let me show you how to sort of.
Let's go back to that for just a
Sure.
second. I just want to talk about it for just a moment. So what's interesting about this, right? What it's telling us is, if you total up the percentages across all 16 data points, you get to 100%. So what it's telling us is anywhere from half to 2/3 of our customers never come back to us again, and drops precipitously to only, call it 17, 18% of our customers visit us twice. So already right there, almost 3/4 of your customers, our customers, visit us twice or less. And so to Wash's point, I think what we found interesting, and the reason we wanted to present this, is it initiates discussion as to what we can do to try to improve that number, drop these numbers down, and see more activity at the other end of the scale, where we have customers with some level of frequency. So, we thought it would be interesting to share this data, and hope that you find it interesting. So,
yeah, and as Torben was saying, as you can see, once we get them past 4, they either go to 16 plus, so they're a very, very consistent customer, or we lose them. There's very few that come, more than 4 times and less than 16 in a period of time. And that's the period of time that they could visit would be basically a year and a half. But this is the number of visits. They were a brand new customer in 2022 in this example. If you want to compare your data to this, here's where you can find the report. If you go into the reports gallery, look at the customer tab, and you pull out the customer initial activity extended, and this will dump right into an Excel file where you can go in and do some data extraction for yourself. If there is any great interest and you want to sort of see exactly how you compare, we can help with some of those formulas. But I know a lot of people on these calls are probably even better at Excel than I am, so probably don't need much help there. But just look at the percentage of customers that have been in there only one time in that period, and see where you rate against the industry.
And one of the other things we looked at was what the average spend is by customer group. So that's another thing that I would encourage you to take a look at. It can be quite interesting. It does vary from company to company, particularly if you do things like wedding gowns that tend to be for customers that you never see again, but are obviously high value items. So that can be another interesting data point to evaluate when you look at your customer base. So again, just passing along that information. We're thinking about including that in future product quarterly sessions. If there's interest in our continuing that practice, we'd certainly love to hear from you in the chat here today. And if you do have any ideas, please feel free to email us if there's a particular data point that you might be interested in our taking a look at across the industry to evaluate some of the challenges that we have and where the data sits, whether there are geographic differences, differences in terms of price point operationally, or are we seeing consistency across the nation? So. And if you have interest also in if you are not currently using Connect and you want to move on to the Connect platform, or at least just begin to try out the Connect platform, we encourage our existing Spot customers to bring up one or two stations. Just email us at connectme@spotpos.com. Tell us you're interested. That'll get passed over to our implementation team, who will reach out to you and just help you get that loaded up onto a couple machines and ensure that you're comfortable using the new environment. So why don't you tell us about Expert Hour, since you are the expert after all?
I stole the audio so I can talk about Expert Hour. So 3 times a week, the customer success team here at Spot hosts the Expert Hour, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, varied times so that we can try to meet the needs of our customers across different time zones. This is an opportunity for you to ask the types of questions the way I like to explain it to people if you've never attended before. So if you have a question that starts with what's the best way to, or how do I, the Expert Hour is probably the place to come. It's not somewhere where we're going to troubleshoot specific issues like printers and things like that. But if you're looking to implement one of the new features that we've talked about here, or you're starting to service hotels and you've never done that before and you want to know the best way to get started, Expert Hour is a great place to attend. Registration is at spotpos.com/academy. And I'll repeat that and we'll put it in the chat too, just so everybody has it. So spotpos.com/academy. I'll pass it on over to Bosch.
So one other thing we want to make sure you're aware of was the new support chat at help.spotpos.com. So if you've gone to our help website, we now support chat support. And so there's a screenshot of it there, so you can see. We know that some folks are already using this. It's something we have not published to this point, but we'll start continuing to put that in front of folks, that folks can, those people that like to use chat for support, we now have that ability. In some cases, obviously, that chat will lead to a phone call potentially, but you have the ability to start a support case through the chat functionality if you would like.
Yeah, and I'll add that the nice thing about this new chat functionality is it's actually going through on the back end and going through our help site to extract documentation on specific subjects that you may have a question about. So it's not only leading you to the documentation that's specifically designed to help answer the questions. If the answers aren't leading to a conclusion, it will automatically bring in a support technician to interact with, and so you get sort of the best of both worlds. Some online assistance, but if the chatbot's stumped, why then it goes out and grabs one of our technicians and brings them online into the chat session.
Okay. And then also you can see screens there of the what's new. That's all on the help page, and then also our store. So you can buy hardware through our store. That's shop.spotpos.com, and we have links to that sort of throughout the platform. But shop.spotpos.com. And lastly, we'll sort of wrap up, getting toward time. Some questions and comments. We've been replying to some already. I have not seen that, but I think Nicole has some.
Yeah, so I'll just throw the questions out. We've answered quite a few in the chat, but a few that we haven't, and maybe you guys can chime in on. We have a customer who doesn't optimize and has a question about opportunity visits coming at the bottom of the manifest. That is only going to be in order if they optimize.
That's correct. Initially, we just had opportunity stops for optimization. It's something we'll look at sort of continuing to refine in the future. So we initially wanted to get the ability out there, and then make sure folks are using it before we continue to develop on the idea. It's an idea we feel strongly about, but definitely want to get some feedback from the group prior to continuing to develop on it.
We've got a question about the cost for Twilio if they move over to our Spot account, and that's going to remain basically the same.
Basically. I mean, there are a number of moving targets between across Twilio as a whole. In fact, I think if you were to take a look at your Twilio bill today, you'll note that it's changed over time as well. But you should expect to be paying roughly the same amount with Spot as you would be paying with Twilio.
Yeah, and just to emphasize that, I think when most folks were told about Twilio initially coming to Spot, I think that the answer, and you can go in Twilio and look at their retail prices, they said something to the effect of, I think they're quoting on there, 0.0079. So a little more than 3/4 of a cent is what per message. However, that's where, as Torin mentioned, the carriers have said, I've got all this network, this bandwidth in my network, you got to pay me more. So if you look now and did the number of messages times the total amount you're spending, you're probably in more of the 1.1 to 1.2 cents per text. It depends on where you're sending, who you're sending to, but it is certainly not 3/4 of a cent to send a message through Twilio today, but because of the additional carrier fees.
I would also add that there is no cost to start up to have us start doing that. There's no startup cost with Spot. You just need to get signed up.
Yeah, correct. Great point, Spencer.
All right. Jeff asked if Connect is available in Spanish.
So I actually replied to this. The answer is not yet, but it is something that we are working on right now. It's actually a full translation system that will support multiple languages once it's complete. But the initial one that we'll be releasing once it's done will be Spanish.
Awesome. Is Connect printing paper tags yet?
So, all right. So the short answer to that is we are testing that right now in our QA environment. We are seeing it working. It has not been released to our production environment, but it will be released. What do we think here in the next 2 months or so? It will certainly. It will, without giving away our next quarterly webinar, it will. Don't be surprised if it is showcased on that webinar.
Yeah, and if you're interested in that, you can email us. Just email us at let's just do the info at Spot POS if you're interested. It's something, and we could put you on the list a little sooner.
All right. Does the global Twilio number also support batch sending and custom messages to customers?
Yeah, it supports not only the batch sending, but it is also will support replies from customers. So it works exactly as your Twilio number does today. It'll just be effectively a different telephone number.
Yeah, I think the one thing so these numbers are designed for mixed usage, which is not marketing. So if you attempt to send marketing email or text, you may get some of those that go through, but if you get reported enough, the carrier could still and being reported. That's the way it's reported today is one of your, and maybe it's a disgruntled customer or former customer, they report your message as junk. It's my understanding that's what the carriers are using. If they see enough of those, then they're going to react and they could attempt to block your number. But if you're staying within the parameters of sending the messages that are not marketing messages, you should be fine.
And I'm going to underscore that that we are aware that there are services out there that are claiming that they can send marketing messages via a 10 DLC number or even potentially toll free. As Wash mentioned, that may be possible for a while, but it will just be a matter of time before that number starts getting filtered. And one of the ways the services can get around that is they just keep changing the number so that it's hard for the carriers to be able to track. Clearly, in our environments where we're relying upon our customers to reply on our numbers, that's not an option. And so we guard that very carefully so that none of us end up polluting our text messaging number.
Yes. Next one is, what if a customer calls that number, and call forwarding will be set up the same way as it is today?
Right. One of the fields on the form that I discussed earlier is submitting the forwarding number that you'd like that message, that new toll-free number to be forwarded to, and we'll set that up for you.
And last one so far is, can we send a batch text to encourage a customer to come back if we haven't seen them in a few months? I would be cautious about how you word that. I think if you do it in a very conversational tone without, say, links attached, but rather, gee, we just miss you, and make it sound like you're talking to them directly, I would think that would work. I would also say no offers. So not a don't
Yeah.
come back to us and you'll get 20% off your next order. That
Right.
would be flagged as marketing.
The other thing I would also say is don't send 200 of them at the same time.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that the carriers will look for is similar messages in a short period of time. So just think about doing a few at a time if you can schedule it that way.
All right. Any plans to improve the Customer Connect UI?
So that is actually, we have a team that is working on that right now. They're going through a refresh not only of the Customer Connect interface, but also of the Customer Connect mobile, the mobile app interface as well for customers. So expect hearing more about that in the coming future as well.
All right. Just a comment. Customers impressed with the ability to search the logs on the Twilio master accounts. It was a big concern, and now they will be able to troubleshoot themselves.
Yeah.
So you'll still be able to see the logs, even though you won't be able to get into Twilio directly.
Correct. Okay.
I just want to take a really quick moment, just a little plug on our YouTube page. Some of you may have seen on the Spot YouTube page, we've got a couple of new onboarding series out. And there's a new voice to him. Instead of hearing yours truly, Andreas Pineda, who came from our support department, he has really done a phenomenal job with these onboarding series. These are available in bite-sized chunks. It is a refresh on older. Instead of watching an hour-and-a-half long video, you can do these in playlist style. And I just wanted to take just a moment just to, let you know that we're going to have quite a bit more coming there, and some refreshes of those dated self-help trainings available on our YouTube page.
All right. We'll leave it with you, Spencer, to wrap it up.
All right. Well, thank you for all joining. I really appreciate it. We all really appreciate it. And we can't wait to see how these features help you each out. And we'll see you in the next one here in just a few months.